Hi, welcome to the Old Geezer's Diary. I'm Chris, and I'm getting to grips with the thing about the election now. It's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? What happens, of course, is that we get used to various politicians of various shades coming out with a load of bullshit that they know is bullshit and that they probably won't have anything to do with if they happen to get elected. So there you go. But one of the things I wanted to talk about in the run-up to the election is all the stuff about the NHS, because the NHS is in dire straits from what we can see, isn't it? And people are saying, we'll do this and we'll do that but the only thing you can really go on is the actual record. And one of the things I came across last week was this, which is from the Financial Times. There is no, I don't know what you call it really, there is no more upstanding an news organisation than the Financial Times. And I thought I'd republish it and give you a sight of it because it proves one little point. The little point it proves is that the Tories don't give a bugger about you and me. I'm talking about ordinary people like you and me who depend upon the NHS for our physical well-being. We go there, or used to go there, should I say, for our dental work. And we still try and go there for everything else. Although many of us now have to do alternative things. The private sector, I think, in the UK is doing better all the time because people who've got the money are getting a bit fed up with having to wait to get medical treatment that they urgently need because of NHS waiting lists. And that's the big thing that I want to talk about today, waiting lists. And here's that graphic from the Financial Times. It shows the growth of the waiting lists under the Conservative and the shrinkage of the waiting lists under Labour. Interesting one, isn't it? Because it demonstrates very clearly that the Conservatives don't really give a bugger about waiting lists for hospitals and hospital treatment. They say they do. That's because they have to say they do, because they want us to vote for them. But the reality is that they don't give a shit. But going back to before the Tories were last elected, the Labour record shows the waiting lists going down and down and down. And I think that's pretty damn good. So I'm quite impressed with Labour on that one. And I think just on its own, from the older person's point of view, that's good news because it means that older people tend to comprise a large part of the waiting list for any medical treatment. And the longer we wait, the more likely we are to die and not need it. So I guess you've got an interesting one there, haven't you? And that suits the Tories' book because if you remember, dear old Boris Johnson said to some of his colleagues that the best thing us oldies could do with COVID was snuff it. Fortunately, we didn't, and I'm still here and so are you. But the reality is that under Labour, waiting lists went down, more people got treated. Under the Tories, waiting lists went up and less people got treated. What's your experience of the NHS? That's the question I want to ask. I have to say that in my specific instance, about 12 years ago, I had a bit of a wait for an operation that I needed, prostate. But luckily, my prostate got dealt with before it had the chance to spread and kill me. So that's good news. I've had a couple of other very minor procedures, including the skin cancer on my hooter, and those were dealt with in a timely fashion. You have to wait a couple of months, but what the hell? You can wait. As long as it gets treated, there you go. But this growing waiting list that we've got now means that if the Tories continue in power, if we're silly enough to re-elect them, then we're going to end up with an even bigger waiting list and more people dying before their time because they're not getting, in many cases, straightforward treatment that might save their lives. So what are we going to do and what are we going to say? What's your experience of the NHS over the past few years? Have you been affected by waiting lists? I know a lot of people have had extraordinary waits to get treatment on the NHS, especially in the times since COVID and in the times when the doctors have been going on strike and so on. So what do we need to do? Who do we need to vote for? Personally, I'm voting Labour. I don't mind saying it. I'm voting Labour. I've not been a consistent Labour voter during my life. Much of the time I voted Tory. But the reality is that Labour should be able to and could be able to do a better job for the National Health Service and for pensioners like maybe you and certainly me in the future. What do you think? I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what your experience is and what you think about the NHS and about waiting lists and about the growth of waiting lists under the Conservatives. I'm Chris. This is the Old Geezer's Diary. I'll see you soon.